Let's call the meeting to order. I'm really, yeah. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First on the docket tonight is recognitions.
Recognitions, okay, so apologize a little bit for the setup, right? Everybody is at our back, but we make the best use of the space we can. Exciting time of the year where we get to honor different athletes, student athletes, and award winners in our district with the CABE Awards. So we're going to start, we have a couple of our principals here tonight. We're going to start with Maggie Seidel and the CABE, Connecticut Association of Board of Education Student Awards. So why don't you come up here, and that way we can kind of see everybody. Thanks, Maggie.
Right. All right, so, good evening. Is this the best way?
Sure.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Maggie Seidel. I'm the principal at Simsbury High School, and I'm excited to be here to honor a couple of students, but we'll start tonight with our CABE Award winners. So this is an award that's meant for a leadership award, so it's the Connecticut Associations of Boards of Education, and this is shown for exemplary leadership skills. And our first recipient is not new to the Board of Ed. Sophia Lazzetti is our Board of Education student representative, and she is our CABE Award winner this year. So Sophia does so much in terms of leadership. She actually spent a day on the Hill as well, really getting a sense of what it's like to be advocating and doing different things that our CABE members do. So she is also a student leader in terms of our musical department. So she is the No Fella a cappella student leader. She's also, this is news that I just found out today, she is nominated for a Halo Award. So her and another student will be traveling down for Peter and the Starcatcher. It's a regional award in New Haven, so she'll find out the big news, I think next week, right? Thursday, okay. She also runs cross country. She's there to support so many students, and she's also a member of our musical department. You'll see her performing on the stage, but one of the other things I always see is I often see her coming in early, working with different groups of students. So just a leader on the field, in the musical department, in her classrooms, and all over, and has really done an awesome job representing Simsbury here as our Board of Ed representative. So congratulations to Sophia Lazzetti. Our other student that got our CABE Award this year is not here. Mitchell Wallman is another Simsbury High School senior who also really does an amazing job showcasing his leadership skills. He's actually playing baseball. They had a state championship game this evening, so he can't be here with us tonight. But I've known Mitchell since he was at Tooten Hills and was always a quiet leader. And he just does an outstanding job. He's our president of the National Honor Society, a three-sport athlete, and he really does such a nice job being that quiet leadership person that we look to. So just wanted to give him a nice, warm appreciation for all that he's done this year, and congratulations to Mitchell Wallman.
We also have Principal Henry James Scott Baker here this evening for the CABE Awards at the middle school. Thanks, Scott.
All right, great to hear the accomplishments of our former Henry James student. So, the first person I'd like to speak about is someone I've known since she's been, I think, 4.5, maybe 5. Actually welcomed her to Terrifield School in this cafeteria a number of years ago, and that is Laura Hanley. I'm not surprised at all that our middle school teachers have chosen her as one of our Connecticut Board of Education scholar leaders, because I got to see firsthand what she was like as an early elementary school student and the leadership opportunities she took on. At Henry James, we have quite a process to choose our students. It goes through all types of nominations. Each team nominates a student. The Unified Arts teachers vote on it. And then they actually write up a little something to share. So it's not just from me, but this is from the teachers in terms of what they said about you, Laura. So they said, Laura Hanley is a student known for hard work, dedication, willingness to take on challenges. She fully commits to her academics, takes on extra credit opportunities, and participates in school activities. Laura was an active participant in our school's Pen-a-thon and showed great pride in the pens that she and her peers created for the event. Laura can be depended upon to work well with classmates in a productive manner. She's inquisitive and curious in her studies and shows genuine interest in conversations and ideas that are shared with her. While having a great sense of humor, Laura exhibits maturity and diplomacy in her interactions with peers and adults, and it is for these qualities that Laura is highly deserving of the CABE Award. Congratulations. All right, our second award goes to a student that I'm really excited to present. And one of the things we start the year off at Henry James, and I talk to all the students, and Brett will remember this, is a very simple thing about saying good morning. We think it's really, really important that, I'm out on the sidewalk greeting good morning, but sometimes I can have a scowl on my face, and I get the good morning from the students. But Brett is someone whose good morning is genuine. I think we all see in our workplaces that, we walk by each other, good morning, how you doing? And we just kind of mindlessly walk. Never Brett. Brett is someone who's always means it when he's coming by. There's a smile and a positive energy that I see just every day when he's walking in the hallway. So Brett's teachers wrote this about him. Brett Sherman is a student known for his kind and courteous manner in and out of the classroom. When he walks down the halls, he says hello and goodbye to his teachers as he passes, and he's frequently seen around different peer groups. Brett is an active class participant and a leader in both small and large group discussions. Not only is he willing to share, but he's diplomatic and supportive of his group members when he encourages them to participate and keep the group on track. Brett commits to his in and out of school activities and always informs his teachers of his commitments. He's curious and inquisitive in class and rises to any academic challenge his teachers set for him. If he doesn't understand something, he advocates clearly for himself in order to feel successful. Brett is dependable and willing to work with any student, regardless of how well he knows them. Brett embodies all of the qualities for this award and is therefore a fitting nomination. Congratulations, Brett.
Congratulations to all of you. The next award we have tonight is our Scholar Athlete Award. So Maggie, we're going to call you back up here. I know our athletic director, Mr. Pinney, I just talked to him, is busy with state tournament games over at the high school right now.
So I have the privilege of also bringing forward to the board our scholar athletes. These two seniors are two outstanding student athletes, and I think that's the biggest thing that we've stressed this year is how you present yourself in the classroom and also out on the field. And so these two students are both amazing athletes and they are outstanding team members. I think that's the other piece, is that their teammates can depend upon them, but they're also among the top in their class academically. And that's a huge success to be able to balance and manage both of those things. So first I'd like to recognize Olivia Jarvis. So Olivia was our all-state in soccer and in basketball. She also has a state championship in soccer and basketball this year, and all-conference in soccer, basketball, and track. So that, in addition to taking 6 AP classes in her time at SHS, and also has held a GPA of 4.47. So you can see that Olivia is quite the student athlete, and would just like to take a moment to recognize her tonight. These two student athletes went to the awards banquet at the AquaTurf, so I don't have anything to hand them because they got that, but they're here tonight. Thank you. This is great.
It's your third visit to the board this year. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
And you'll be heading to Quinnipiac to play soccer, I hear.
Yes.
Congratulations. Thank you.
So next I'd like to recognize Thomas Franklin. So Thomas also joins 2 siblings with this award. So he's the third in the family to win the Scholar Athlete Award. So congratulations to you and your siblings. But he was all conference in soccer and lacrosse while also taking 8 AP courses during his time at SHS and holding a GPA of 4.55. So pretty outstanding. So wanted to congratulate Thomas Franklin as well. And before I hand hand this back over, I just also wanted to share that these students, beyond just the student-athlete part of them, their attitude, work ethic, time put in the classroom and out on the field is really, truly amazing. And we're just really proud of you. Mr. Penny and I both, on his behalf, happy to be here. And yes, Olivia will be attending Quinnipiac next year to play soccer and major in nursing, correct? And also, Tommy, you plan to study engineering at UConn. So congratulations to both of you on a job well-deserved. So, thank you, everyone.
All right, and we have two more recognitions tonight. Those GPAs are something.
4.4.
You didn't know they went that high.
Cumulative, right?
Drop it.
Right. For our student reps.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, it's that time of year when we switch over and say goodbye to our student reps, Matt and Sophia. I just want to take a second to really thank them for their participation. From day one, they really rolled up their sleeves and engaged, right? These weren't just two students who came, gave their reports of the bake sale at Latimer. They really engaged. And when we did ask them questions when issues came up, and they were not afraid to give us really honest and actionable responses. So we are a better board for your participation. We wish you the best of luck next year. And I have a little token of our appreciation.
Oh, good, in front of them, it's easy. You're good. There we go. Just getting conscious, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so this is the best time. We're going to move on to the regular business meeting, so feel free to exit, but I want to shake a few hands.
Celebrate.
We'll do that. Thank you for coming out. I know it's so good.
I know, can you imagine?
No pressure there.
That's amazing.
Sisters. I think Sarah won it. Sarah was when I was principal. But it had to be his other sister because I don't think.
That's really something. It's great.
That's great. Very nice.
Boy, it got quiet.
So with that said, we'll move on to public audience. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Committee reports and communications. I guess you guys switched up. We'll start over there then. Josh?
Nope, nothing to add.
Jess?
Nothing to add, just congratulations to all those amazing students.
Lydia?
Yeah, just briefly, I mentioned we had the Cape Day on the Hill, our wrap-up at the LOB about, what was passed this year, legislative wrap-up, and Mr. Sullivan also came for the morning. So in a nutshell, the Education Committee and the General Assembly passed over 20 bills, and these are the bills, and in these bills are about 200 acts, and they're all about education. I'm not going to read every one of them, I'll spare you, but one of the bills that was passed is an act concerning school resources, and there's a number of bills in this thing. The act assisting districts improving educational outcomes. An act concerning schools. So when you think about all these different acts and what's in them, some of them even overlap the acts and what they were. But all these things will be passed July 1st, with the exception of some of them in October 1st. So the Education Committee was very busy this year. Kay was there advocating on behalf of boards of education and school districts throughout the state on some of these things. So we were very pleased that these were the ones that were passed with no new mandates, which we're very excited about. So so that's where we are. So it was a busy, short session, but it's going to be even a busier year for school districts come July 1st. And the other thing I would like to, the even more exciting thing that made my week was the capstone presentations. I had the honor of going to 5 capstone presentations, and I just thought they were fantastic. I was just so impressed. I'm just so impressed with the students. I'm so impressed with the themes. I was in music, culinary. I was in one about the world of being a mortician, and I was in another biomedical engineering, and another one about homelessness. So I was just enthralled. I could have stayed there all day. I mean, there were probably about 100 capstone. I forgot how many on the list to see, and they were all very, very, very different. So kudos to all the students that participated in their capstone. Congratulations to them all. They did an excellent job, and I really wish we could even present some of these capstones. I know these students will be gone through September, but I really wish you could present some of these capstones to us, the Board of Ed, and to the public, so they see what is going on with our high school students, you know, and their year-long obligation and work and commitment to present this. So congratulations, kids.
Absolutely.
Fantastic program. Tara?
Nothing today, but again, congratulations to all our winners and all our art winners last week. Exciting time.
Speaking of.
And one of ours, moving on to our, award winning.
Yeah, the capstone day was really cool. I really enjoyed it. On the other side of things, sorry. Latimer Lane had over 200 students bike on Bike to School Day last week, which was cool. The Simsbury girls rugby team won the state championship, and the boys volleyball team won their conference. And then senior prom is this Friday. And then Friday is also Central School Night at the Yard Goats Stadium. And Squadron is hosting a cultural enrichment program, Move Up NTO.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
So last week, we had the opportunity to meet as the Kathleen McGowan Committee, and we discussed teacher grants, innovative grants that educators put forth. And as a team, we awarded almost $30,000 in conjunction with our guidelines. I can certainly share with board members a summary of those grants, but just so excited to see the innovation that was put forth and how Ms. McGowan's legacy will live on through these innovative projects.
That's great.
Nothing for this portion of the meeting?
Katie? Great. Well, Sophia, I was going to mention the girls' rugby team, and so I'm counting girls' rugby, basketball, soccer.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to
Guys
get
gotta,
girls rugby representation out to our last meeting, which has become a tradition with these state titles, which is kind of
Yeah,
cool.
girls' sports had a fantastic year.
They are.
Fantastic year. Matt?
I'm all set.
Awesome, great. So let's keep rolling then. In your packet is the minutes for the May 14th meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of May 14th meeting.
Great, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next up is the unaffiliated salary adjustments.
Yeah, I'm going to take this one in Mr. Watson's absence tonight, as he's the chair of the negotiations group, Personnel and Negotiations Committee for the board. So we met 2 weeks ago before the last regular meeting of the board as a committee. Tara and Jessica were there along with Jen Batchelor as we discussed unaffiliated salaries. As the veteran board members know, the unaffiliated group, we have 5 bargaining units consisting of teachers, administrators, paras, and secretaries together, custodians, and then nurses. And if you don't fall in one of those categories, you fall into a category called unaffiliated, which are all the other employees, many of which are the folks who work at the Board of Education, some of our OTs and PTs, our computer technicians, so kind of a mixed group of employees. They just don't fall under one of the associations. So they don't negotiate their contracts the way other groups do. And at each year at this time, either the last meeting of the Board of Ed or the next to last meeting, we recommend for the board what we think a fair salary adjustment is based on where the market stands and what other groups have negotiated. So in the meeting that we held 2 weeks ago, we are recommending to move forward a general wage increase for these employees of a 2.9% general wage increase, which is consistent with where the bargaining groups came in. And in addition to that, to recommend a health insurance premium increase of 0.5% for, this is only 1 year, we do 1 year at a time with unaffiliated. And all other of the insurance matters that we have been dealing with the other groups are caught up with this group. So we have nothing else in terms of sort of some of those cost-saving measures we've done for insurance. So we think this is the right settlement with the wage increase in the insurance, and there is a motion in your folder for someone to make.
I have the motion, so I will make the motion. Move that the salary range for the unaffiliated Board of Education employees and salaries for the central office administrators be increased by 2.9% for the 2024-25 fiscal year.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Thank you. On to textbooks.
Great. At the May 14th meeting, I had shared a list of texts that were up for textbook adoption starting in the 24-25 school year. Those texts were available for your perusal, and as promised, I shared there would be a motion for your consideration to approve these textbooks.
I'll move that the board approve the textbook adoption for the 2024-2025 school year as submitted by the administration.
Second.
Any discussion? We've all seen it, so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Fee schedule for the use of the public schools.
Same speech that Ms. Lemke gave, but switch textbooks with the fee schedule for using our buildings for the community groups that will use our buildings frequently. And this, I presented it 2 weeks ago, not only what the fee schedule is if you are a group that needs to rent the building, but also if you need to pay the custodial fees when we are not open. We charge groups if the building needs to remain open with our personnel. So it was presented 2 weeks ago, and as promised, it is ready to be voted upon.
Questions? Yeah, we've seen this one as well.
Move that the fee schedule for the use of public schools for 2024 and 2025 be approved as submitted by the administration.
Great.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Terriffill School PTO donation.
Do you like how we're mixing this up here?
Yeah.
Ping pong, back to me. So one of the aspects of my job that I love the most is teeing up any gifts that are coming before the board. And tonight is from the Terriffill PTO. It is a gift for $3,000, and these funds will be used to help defray the costs of Camp Jewel. So there's a motion there for your consideration.
Very generous.
I'll do that one. Move that the proposed gift of $3,000 to Terriffill School by the Terriffill School Parent-Teacher Organization be approved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you so much for that generosity. That's an exceptional trip for all of our students.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Please express our gratitude. It's fantastic. Moving on, social studies program review.
Yes, so we get a chance to hear from our department supervisors this evening at both the high school and the middle school, so I will have Sue cue that up for us, but we're excited to work through. They're going to present from up here?
They're going to present from up here. So
All
I'm
right.
going to invite Alan Bunsen and Rich Curtis to come on up. And as they are transitioning to those seats of honor right over here, gentlemen, I will just kind of provide some context for these reports. So last year I had shared that I was very excited to reinvigorate a curriculum review cycle. And it's basically a 10-year cycle where each year we would focus on 2 to 3 specific content areas and start planning for a full curriculum review. So last month, Shannon Gagne, as the K-12 Visual Arts Department Supervisor, shared some of the good work that was happening in her department. And tonight I have before you Alan Amundson, who is our department supervisor in social studies at Henry James Memorial School in grades 7 and 8, and Rich Curtis, our department supervisor for social studies at the high school. And these two gentlemen have been leading a great evaluation process. So tonight they are going to share some of the celebrations of what's been happening in the social studies department's 712, what their priorities have been, and a look into the future, what they will be looking to do in the coming years relative to curriculum and instruction, some supports that they might be looking for also in the future, and just give you a taste of what's going on in Social Studies 712. So, with that, welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thank you.
I'm going to be your Vanna White. So we'll start with celebrations. We always start with the great news.
Thank you for inviting us both here tonight. Appreciate that. We wanted to start with celebrations, and one of the things that I thought would be appropriate to start with, since it's May and it's AP test time, we had 282 students taking the College Board AP exams in social studies. That's across 5 courses, and that's an increase from last year, so we're excited about that. Next year, we're going to add a 6th advanced placement course at the high school, and it's AP Human Geography. I wanted to thank one of our teachers, Steve Nunes, for taking the lead on that and doing all the research to pull this course together. It's a course that explores how humans have understood, used, and changed the surface of the earth. And it looks at topical issues like population growth, technology, climate change. It's a great course, and we're excited to be offering it at the high school. The other thing I wanted to mention is it's a new National Social Studies Honor Society that was established at the high school this year. Sophia had a big role in getting this started, working with Mr. Faithful. Currently, it has 24 students in 11th and 12th grades, and the purpose is to allow students who love history to do some local history research and get involved with some community projects. This year, they did a Halloween cemetery tour, which was a big hit. And next year, they have a unique opportunity with the upcoming 250th anniversary of American independence. Simsbury is going to celebrate that, and there are lots of opportunities for these students to work with Simsbury Free Library, the Historical Society, and the DAR. So we're excited about bringing our students into the community to do some more of that research. Thank you, Sophia, for your role in this.
Go ahead, Alan.
Oh, one more, wasn't on the board. Other than the success of our success and growth of all our students at Henry James, we are celebrating and mourning at the same time the retirements of Kim West and Lori Worthen, who have been absolute pillars of Henry James for a very long time. They will be missed. So.
Thank you. So priorities. What have you been working on this year?
Well, so we received new standards from the state this year, and our first step at Henry James was we had to evaluate our curriculum against those standards. So we created a tool, a rather simple tool, which lines the standard up and gives us opportunities to go through and see how we're addressing each standard individually. And what it ended up showing us is where we're hitting the standards really, really well, and where we need to do a little more work. Also, a part of this process was the vertical team for social studies. Melanie's not here. But we sat down and had some pretty deep conversations about making sure that we're in line with the state's prescribed scope and sequence. And some changes were made. Some people gave some stuff up. Some people took some stuff on. But Rich, you can speak for the high school, but I think we're in a really good place.
So just as a reminder, our vertical teams are K-12 teams that we base in a content area, and they have representatives not only of leadership within that content, but also teachers. So depending upon what the instructional focus is or the curricular focus, we will bring people from all over the district around specific to the content area and say, what needs to be discussed? So this was, a lot of our shifts was specific to US history. And what we were finding in some areas relative to these standards, we were duplicating efforts, and in some areas, we weren't addressing certain components specifically of these new standards. So we're pretty excited about some changes to come.
It says, continue to embed the vision of the graduate competencies into our coursework. And what we're doing there is we're ensuring that the 6 vision of the graduate competencies are not just something that students think about when they're doing their capstone, because that's actually how they're evaluated on capstones, on those 6 competencies, but something that, starting in 9th grade and even earlier, they're having practice and being exposed to so that they can master those skills, so that when capstone comes around senior year, they're very familiar with those. And I would echo Lydia's comments on capstone. It was tremendous this year. Students did a terrific job on those competencies, and we think we can even improve that by ensuring those experiences 9-12 before they get
Student engagement through inquiry-based instruction. Inquiry-based instruction is really at the heart of what we do in social studies at Henry James, primarily because it's the best way for the kids of our age that we teach to learn. It's to sum it up in a very short way. Inquiry-based learning takes the student from being just a recipient to an active participant through discovery, questioning, and the likes. And it really is how we do it at Henry James. For us, as we go forward in our curriculum review cycle, the new state standards apply specific inquiry standards throughout our entire scope and sequence. So what we're able to do now is really ensure that inquiry-based learning will be represented in almost everything we do. And it's also going to give us an opportunity to incorporate more vigorously, I guess would be a good word, content-based study skills. So these standards have really given us a lot of opportunities in this area to better the student experience.
How about challenges?
Okay, yeah, some of the challenges we're going to face at my building level is we have a tremendous amount of work ahead of us. We are realigning, we're converting the U.S. history, the 8th grade U.S. history class from a thematic to a chronological approach, which is going to add a lot of stuff to our timeline. And we're going to have to build a lot of new lessons around that. Thankfully we have just a fortune of things we already do, but there's going to be places where we're going to have to fill in. That process is going to begin next year. One of the challenges for us, as far as, and me in particular, is managing that time, finding the time to get that work done, because we don't like to use our PLC time for that kind of work. We like to use our PLC time to look at student progress and student achievement. So it's going to fall to me as the supervisor to really manage that time, find that time and manage it. And we may have to do some take some traditional time like department meetings and use that for the work, because with email and the fact that we PLC twice a week at each grade level, department meetings aren't really necessary. We can get that. I can get that work done through word of mouth or through email. So yeah, that's going to be one of our bigger challenges next year.
So this year certainly has been working with Rich and Alan to kind of set the roadmap for curricular review. And so I think what you're speaking to is now it's about in the next couple of years enacting what that roadmap is. And developing curriculum where it needs to be developed, modifying where it needs to be modified, and letting it just grow and be successful where the places where it is being the most successful. So thank you for that. Josh.
Question, kind of specific to that, but also in general for this curriculum review. So something like that, going from thematic chronological, just out of curiosity, like why? Is it like feedback? If so, feedback from who? Is it data? Is it tied to the state? Just kind of curious, using that as an example, but just bigger picture, when you make these kind of changes, what goes into it?
Well, firstly, it came from analysis of the standards, and through the thematic approach, it became pretty obvious that we needed to teach a lot of history that was not being necessarily missed, but could be done much better. As far as data goes, I looked at Durg A and Durg B schools, and I think it was 74% of Durg A and Durg B schools use a chronological approach for U.S. history. And from someone who's taught history grades 7 through 12 for 24 years now, it really is just a better way to teach it. Our 7th grade class is perfect for a thematic approach. Our 8th grade class, the U.S. history class, there's a timeline in U.S. history, and we have to work with it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, civil discourse and controversial issues. Well, we encourage teachers to have conversations around current events and current issues, but we also realize there needs to be a structure in place for those conversations. And what we did this year was we set up a set of norms around classroom discussions in social studies. We want to make sure that every student feels that their views are welcome, and that they will be respected regardless of what they think on a particular issue. And we also thought that it's important for teachers to have a common language when talking about norms in a classroom. And this set of discussion norms will do just that. Teachers will be able to set these conversations up in a similar fashion using the same sort of expectations and guidelines. So we do want to have conversations, but we do want to set up an environment where it's structured and that students feel comfortable expressing their views on a particular issue.
At the middle school, it's a little trickier for us because our kids are so they're figuring out who they are a lot of times, and they're taking in they're constantly taking in information. So our job is oftentimes to kind of field a lot of what they've heard, because they do not hesitate to bring it to us and let them know. And let them and guide them, act as guides and teach them what is good information, what's bad information, and don't always, go down the rabbit hole.
How about new staff support, Alan?
Well, our curriculums are very very complex, and we have teachers who have been teaching them for a very long time. So it's kind of when you go into our a new person comes into our PLCs, a lot of it is just kind of assumed, that like, oh, we've been doing this together for so many years. I know where this is. I know where that is. And with Kim and Lori leaving, that's 2/3 of our 7th grade PLC is gone. So what we set out to do at the beginning of the year is we started creating documents that we're calling units at a glance. And they basically take our units and break them down by topics on one side of the form, and on the other side of the form, we linked all the materials that we have for that given topic. And we've almost completed one for each class in both grade levels. And that'll be part of what I do this summer is clean up anything that's left to do with those, because we have 2 new full-time teachers and also a new .4 teacher coming in to teach 8th grade. So. AI? All right. Well, AI seemingly came out of nowhere. It really did. We were all just plugging along in our normal educational universe, and all of a sudden this thing called ChatGPT shows up. And the real expert is my counterpart in ELA, Bill Antonitis, because he's been on top of this since day one. And we've had informal conversations amongst our supervisor team, but nothing, concrete. I know Bill has been experimenting with it in his classes. Not much has been done, if any at all, in the 7th grade or 8th grade level. But I think it's something that we're going to need more training on. I think the general consensus, at least amongst our leadership team, is we can't just block it and hope it goes away, because it's here, and we need to find a way to teach the kids to use it right. But
So, Alan,
first, we
that-
have to figure out what using it right looks like. So.
I was gonna say that's a perfect tee up, because you don't know this, but for our last meeting in June, Dave Prinstein is our Director of Instructional Technology, and he's going to share with you exactly kind of this construct. What is he leading relative to AI, and some next steps in a kind of a district group around that. So how do teachers utilize AI for their own instructional practice and to enhance it? And how do we teach into that relative to how our students use it? And ethical and responsible use around AI? And how do you use it as a tool for your own study and your own growth? So thanks for that tee up, Alan.
Social studies enrollment in our electives. With changing graduation requirements, it's important to remind students of what is available in the social studies electives world. And I'll give you an example of it this year. With the AP Human Geography course, Ken Para, one of the assistant principals at the high school, and I went to Steve Nunes, who was putting the class together, and we said, we really believe in this class. We want you to sell it, though. You got to break through the other courses that are out there attracting students. So 2 days later, there's posters around advertising AP Human Geography with Taylor Swift on it. And next thing we know, we've got 46 students in it. So now he just has to deliver. I promise that might be hard, but it is it is important to raise awareness of the different courses, because there are so many choices now at the high school. The new state curricular requirements, these are different than the standards that Alan spoke to earlier. These are things that were passed in the legislature, and from time to time the legislature does this. They will come up with some new mandates, and oftentimes it touches on social studies. The most recent things to come out of the legislature in social studies are they want to focus on Native American studies and Asian American and Pacific Islander studies. And what they mean by that is they're not saying you have to create a course, a special course for those, but that through the K-12 sequence, you do touch on those at various points. So part of our curricular review is to ensure that we're doing that and find additional places where we could make those connections going forward.
Just a quick question on the state curricular requirements and then also the standards that you mentioned. So when the state sets these things forward, do they give you a timeline where you have to have them implemented? And
They
if
do.
so, what is the timeline?
They do. They usually give you about a year lead time to put those in place, unless it's something like the African American Latino Studies course. Now that had to be a course, so they gave you a couple of years there to get that up and running. So they do give you some time. They do a terrific job of providing resources too for those topics. So we've been fortunate to be able to use a lot of the state created resources around those topics.
So these changes will be implemented 2024-25 school year or 5-6?
5-6.
5-6, okay.
Ask you questions that I'm curious if it's a challenge or not. You don't need to, or you can just turn on the news to see that the extremes of both parties, and I do mean both parties, want to change, let's just say change history as certainly I learned it growing up. I guess my question is simple in that, are you seeing that pressure, feeling that pressure in Simsbury at all? If so, how are you navigating it? And it may be just the civil discourse on the controversial issues, as you mentioned, but I'm just curious if that's filtering down at all into our level.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, sometimes we see it in the form of maybe like an individual parent questioning something that their student brought home. It's always a civil discussion. There's no real feel of groundswell coming at us. We may get questioned a little more than we used to by individual parents, but those are usually pretty easy discussions to have. And at the end of the day, we have our standards to fall back on. If anyone questions something we're teaching, we can just point to the standards of the state of Connecticut and say, we have to, you know?
Yeah, I would agree 100% with Alan. Very rarely do we hear anything from the community, and the state standards, we follow those very closely, and, you know, that's, I think, a great way to ensure the community that we're, you know, following something larger than just the ideas of a couple teachers. This is an established curriculum that has been, you know, vetted by experts.
I will say one last thing. It has created a new sense of caution amongst teachers that wasn't around years back. I think of when I taught a current events class, and I think of some of the discussions I had with kids 10 years ago. Scott would have been getting a lot of phone calls.
And I think that's why it's so important to come back to what Rich and Alan were talking about before about classroom norms. And Rich stated it so eloquently. How do we ensure that we can have civil discourse? How do we model that for our youth? And how do we ensure that all voices are welcome and that we're following those norms? So that's a real specific skill that we need to teach into.
So that was gonna be the controversial issues, kind of piggyback off that. Are those, when you say you're putting those in for social studies, it sounds like, is that something that's pretty universal throughout the system, right? Like that there's not how we handle these type of things in one set of classes versus another? So when you say those norms, I assume those norms are pretty much across the board, or are they different by each curriculum set?
I think we've been talking about controversial issues in general and how do we have civil dialogue. I think it comes up more naturally in the content of social studies, just by the sheer nature of what we're discussing. But those are, I wouldn't say that they're kind of blanketed norms, but we're always talking with our teachers about how to respond when controversial issues come up. And as Alan says, a lot of times students will bring things up because they want to talk about what's going on in the world. And so how do we do that and model what that discourse looks like?
Excellent. Thank you. So the implications, curriculum writing time, you know, there's never enough time to do all of the things that we would like to do. The district's been wonderful, though, in carving out time like our PLC time, which has been so valuable to us over the past few years. But collaborative work is so important, and having time as a group is so important to brainstorm ideas, share differentiation strategies that might be working in different situations. And then, as Alan was saying too, to have some of the younger members of the faculty share some of their tech tips. And you know, certainly AI is one of those areas that we're looking for.
Way to be open to that, Rich.
I was gonna say, when we were talking about the bicentennial, some of us remember the 200.
Right.
Not
Why are you looking at me?
And I'm older than you.
As far as U.S. history resources for the 8th grade, we are, like I said, we are changing our approach to U.S. history. But over the past, more importantly, over the past like 3 years, we've been working, 3 to 4 years, we've been working at the PLC level to try and make our presentation of U.S. history more inclusive. The underheard voices, if you will, women, African Americans, Native Americans. We've been really trying to customize those experiences so our kids know the whole story and everybody's story. And so a new textbook, given the new approach and all that work we've done, a new textbook would be very valuable to us. Our current textbook has a copyright date of 2009. It doesn't get used a lot, but as far as cost is concerned, I know cost is always an issue with when it comes to books. We've talked it over at the PLC level, and because we've been avoiding our book so much for the past 10 years, we've really built up a course where we have documents and we have materials that we give the kids. We could probably, not even probably, we could definitely get by with just like 3 classroom sets of a new book. And that way, save a ton of money and have a good resource for the kids.
We always say that a textbook isn't curriculum. So as we are continuing to develop and make these necessary changes based upon the standards, you may see a request in the future for U.S. history text that's specific to 8th grade. Additional support that you might need, gentlemen?
Sorry, before you move on, can you help me understand what you mean by a textbook's not curriculum?
Sure. So what I mean is, we don't open up a textbook and go chapter by chapter and say, okay, chapter 1, that's our first unit in our curriculum. Chapter 2, that's the second unit in our curriculum, right? There's more to a curriculum than just what a textbook might share with you. That's a lot of content. How do we also embed the necessary skills within that content? How do we embed, like a textbook isn't going to necessarily highlight study skills that are needed in the content area. So there are other things certainly that we consider when we're developing a curriculum.
But it is a valuable resource for
100%.
content. Okay.
100%. Additional support?
I think some and I know this isn't gonna be an issue in our building. We're gonna need a little bit of flexibility with how we use our time, especially on the PD calendar. But again, Scott and Jacqueline have always been really good about that with us, and so, as a matter of fact, we managed to get a day that we wanna pilot, 1 unit of the new model next year. And we don't have any of it put together yet, except a really rough timeline. So Scott was able to get us all day Thursday, the 3 of us, the 8th grade PLC, and we got the gallery, and we're just gonna roll our sleeves up and dig in and build that pilot unit, so.
Great.
Professional learning or professional development is also something that we're hoping to continue to participate in. There is a lot of good PD out there around inquiry-based learning. It is a big topic in social studies right now, and there's all kinds of excellent PD available. Also, advanced placement courses. There's lots and lots of good College Board professional development. And the reason that's increasingly important, I think, is because the College Board is changing their exams significantly in some cases. And they're telling teachers now, here are the things to emphasize, and here are the things you can de-emphasize, which is something they hadn't done, up until probably 8 years ago. And they've also changed the types of questions, so keeping up to date, especially now in the advanced placement testing world, is really important. So when we see those opportunities to send people out, we jump at it.
Yeah, as far as PD goes, AI is definitely at the top of our list, because if middle schoolers can find a way around, they will. So we really need to prioritize that. And I think as middle school teachers, I think early next year, as far as our professional learning goes, is we should take some time and game plan the next fall, the election of next fall, because it's going to be there. We're not going to be able to avoid it. And I think it would be good, especially at the middle school level, if we go in with a set plan. So I can't even begin to think of what that plan might look like. That's, again, going to be part of my summer. But yeah, those are the 2 priorities, I think, for next year.
Great. And then finally, I always share with any department leader, having access to my team, whether it be Katie Crisula and how to support students with special education needs through a specific content area, Dave Brinstein relative to the AI component, Dr. Batchelor relative to issues around civil discourse and controversial issues, always that we offer that access to our teaching and learning team.
I have one more question.
Please, Jessica.
You talked about the study skills and embedding them into the curriculum, and thank you and bravo for doing that work. I wanted to ask if you could give a little more specificity around that. Are you teaching note-taking, how to study from those notes, the process, the initial part of the processing of the information, get onto notes? What exactly are you guys, what are you seeing that you need to focus on in the study skills area?
Well, it's all of those things, But I think at the high school in particular, it has to do with writing. And it's something that we have a scaffolded process where we start with creating a topic and then building out from there, and doing resources and evaluating resources, what the structure of the paper should look like, and all of the different forms of citation. So at the high school level, we do some of the note-taking and some of that other, how to read efficiently and not take too many notes. But most of it is really around writing that big first research paper and all of the skills that sort of get you to that point. And we break it down over the course of, well, the first 2 years, and then by junior year, you're writing a full paper, senior year, another big full paper. But trying to break it down into manageable bites. Because that's something that I think a lot of students struggle with. We also encourage students to take advantage of the excellent writing lab that we have at the high school, which really makes a difference in terms of the quality of the papers. So there's a whole process of getting them familiar with the resources that are available that will help them.
And at the middle level, we spend a lot of time in the 7th grade teaching just, here's how you do school. When we're doing this kind of learning, here's what's expected of you. Because when they come to us, they've never done what we do. They've never bounced from room to room and subject to subject. And they haven't had a full year social studies course ever in their life where they have social studies every day. So 7th grade spends a lot of time teaching different note-taking strategies, different source analysis strategies, different types of sourcing, all of which we continue into the 8th grade. But what's come up recently in our conversations, and we're going to put extra effort into, is teaching the kids how to share ideas and carry on a conversation with each other, because it's something that's kind of faded a little bit as of late. So we're really sensitive about that. We're going to look into that as well.
So things like study groups and things along that line, or?
Mm-hmm. Or working together to build inquiry-based questions and research-based questioning assigned to a given topic, things like that. And a lot of it happens just organically. It doesn't look like I'm giving them a lesson on how to find good databases, because we're just incorporating it with the curriculum. But yeah, a lot of it goes on.
So Jessica, I think that that's one of the components of this curricular review. As we are making changes potentially to these units, what are the skills, the study skills that are needed for students to be successful with either the demonstration of their knowledge or with a specific skill set, and how do we directly teach into that? So certainly more to come as these units evolve, and I can certainly share not only in social studies but across content areas, what is this looking like as far as its integration?
That'd be great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the social studies courses and the history courses also just study skill wise help me, and I know a lot of other people, document analysis and understanding why a certain author had a certain perspective, whether it be time period, gender, their background, and I thought that was really useful too, and pulling out a main idea really quickly.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Next, we are moving on to the Deerfield School report. Gracious hosts.
Mr. Madison.
Did you meet Jessica as well? This is Rich Curtis.
Nice to meet you.
Alan's already gone, but
Oh, Alan.
you'd like to meet our new members, the new board members.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hi.
Jessica.
Alan Amundsen, nice to meet you. And Josh.
Nice to meet you. Have a good summer.
Thank you, you too. Thanks
Good
for
luck.
listening.
Yes, very.
Good evening, everyone. How are we doing?
Hello, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Ready?
Mr. Mazik.
Cue this up.
Here we go.
All right, great.
Would you
So,
like me to Vanna for you, or do you want to do your own slide?
you can, I'll let you know, but.
Great.
All right, so similar to social studies, I'll be going through a slide presentation tonight about some of the achievements, priorities, challenges, financial implications, and supports that you have provided to Terriffill School. The year is coming to an end, so I'll kind of talk as a kind of what we've done, and then moving forward, what are the things we're looking forward to as well. So at Terriffill School, some of our achievements, academically, we continue to have growth in all of our academics. Really at Terriffill School, when our students come in, really by the time they leave us in 5th and 6th grade, we really have a good handle on their academics and where they are and, how they can move on to the middle school. For math and reading, we do screeners throughout the year to monitor our students, K through 6, which that then provides us with some small group Tier 1 instruction. Tier 1 instruction is what we do inside the classroom that we can do at that level. If students need an additional support, that's our Tier 2. That's where we have additional supports with our SHRIP and our MIP, which is math intervention and reading and support for our students. Students are making progress, doing a great job. Right now, our students are about 80% on their benchmarks across the board, which is a good sign there. We measure some of our success with a couple different measures. We have a STAR, math and reading, that kind of is very similar to our ESPA, the SBAC testing that we take. It gives us a measure of how we think they'll do in that state standard there. And we kind of measure growth. And for us, growth is a big deal about how our students are achieving. Are they achieving, if they're exceeding, are they staying there and what's their growth? But if they're below, how could we get them up to the next level of approaching or meeting standards? And we do that by what they call the SGP, which is our student growth percentile. And right now, we're at about 65% that's the growth rate of our students overall. We have some students that grow tremendously at a 98%. That student that wasn't doing very well with some interventions and some Tier 1 supports, they've jumped up and done very well. Sometimes a student with a low growth percentile could really mean they've done so well that they can grow a little bit more. But overall, we're at that 65% for our grade level there. We've exited students from special education, which is really a neat thing to hear when you leave a PPT with parents and the child was referred as early as, could be 1st or 2nd grade, and by the time they meet 5th grade, students have exited. So we've had several students this year exit special ed. That's not to say we don't have students that enter special education too, but it's nice to see that we're just not always entering kids, we are exiting kids as well. So that was really nice to see. Our 4th grade data has been just outstanding this year with this cohort. A little background about this cohort. This cohort last year kind of struggled. They struggled academically and behaviorally, and we put some things in place over the summer. Our coaches got to work. That's our Catherine Anastasio is our LAC, and Chris Liss is our new math coach. And this cohort has really changed around to the point they have some of the highest percentiles in STAR in district right now, which is great. And I assume on their SBAC they will do as well as also. So that's really exciting. Some leadership priorities we had this year. So this year was kind of unique. We had an opening in 6th grade, or Chris Liss, we opening in our math coaching. So Chris Liss took that. That provided an opening for Chris to become our math coach. And then it just evolved. But we had new grade level teams at every single level. So that means we had a new teacher teaching K through 6 with a shuffle. We always had a teacher that stayed. And that opened a lot of opportunity for us, and it's been really great for new learning for our teachers. Some kind of change is not a bad thing. We're a firm believer in that, and it was a good thing. And teachers really embraced it, and it showed with some of our scores. We continue to have our climb assemblies and activities for our caring, respect, responsibility, and citizenship. Students love those. We really pride ourselves on that in our climb and our character ed program. One of the things that came up from our survey last year, our students, is a couple have said they didn't feel connected, and that really hit us. And we're like, Terriffill doesn't do that. We got to make sure, why is that happening? So we made a point this year, to make sure all of our kids felt connected, that they have a friend, an adult in the building that they can go to. And we constantly do that through check-ins with our SEL curriculum in the morning or throughout the day. If something's buzzing in their building, our support staff and Erin Aspel, our social worker, Anna Bloom, our school psychologist, are always there trying to figure out what's going on so we can help that student. A lot of outreach to families as well, when needed. So we feel as though we've kind of done a pretty good job with that. Equity and diversity, we are one of the more diverse schools in district, and we pride ourselves on that. And we've done a really good job with our bulletin boards, with our cultural months that we celebrate. We have a student equity team that kind of came out of that, along with our faculty team that we meet with. So those are some things that we think are unique. The students do see themselves in the classroom with what's on the walls in the classroom, what's in our hallways. We had a kind of an equity walk. This was last year, and like, what can we do to better our building so kids feel at home? Obviously, we have the flags in here, and these flags do represent the countries that our kids are from. I think Scott Baker started that probably 15 years ago, and we've put in several new flags in the last 5 or 6 years. Special education support. So we've kind of did a new push-in model. We added a 0.5 special education teacher in our building, which really has done a great job as kind of relieving some pressure from our caseloads, which has been great as well. And now we have students that are really getting their education from a certified staff. When your caseloads are so large, sometimes we have to rely on parents. They do a great job. They do a wonderful job, but it's a little different when a teacher that's trained in certain areas is delivering that instruction. So that's been a really nice help. And then rebooting our planned learning communities, our PLCs, through collaboration. Again, new teams, so we had to kind of reboot that. What does that look like? What are you guys talking about in those meetings? Along with getting our coaches in there, a lot of professional development has happened during that time as well. So that's been an exciting priority for us this year, which will continue next year as well. Current and future challenges, continuing to discuss and educate students on disrespectful behavior, language, race, and mean behavior. That's something, again, when this happens, it's kind of that's controversial, and we got to kind of get tied up with that. But we are super excited about the new Encouraging Words district-wide initiative that should be coming out, and it's something we've been working hard on at Terriffill School, because this does happen. It happens every year, and it's really heartbreaking when you have to sit down with parents and describe or discuss a racial issue that comes up. It's tough, and we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to help that, and so our parents and families and kids know that we're supporting them, and we're here to learn. We make mistakes, and I think we've kind of expressed that to some of our families, and we're trying to get better. We're not perfect, but we're working hard to try to get back in.
So just as a reminder, Encouraging Words on May 14th, Dr. Batchelor presented, and this is a campaign. Parents, family members should have received an email from their principals asking if anyone was interested in working on this district-wide campaign around how do we use encouraging words to please do so, and she's getting some good interest. So that is really picking up some steam.
One of the things with future events too, we piloted, our fourth grade was able to pilot the new math curriculum that will be coming in Think Math. So we're excited about that. So that will be a big push for us in all the elementary schools, obviously next year, doing that. And every elementary did have a pilot or two grade level in their building, so we're ready to go for that. We talk about financial implications, the budget, some of you had a tour of our new modular classrooms back there, and those have been wonderful for our music, and then some office spaces, and for occupational therapy and physical therapy from some of our students as well. Like I said, our students have needs, and that space has provided a really good opportunity for us to just keep growing and expanding the new offices. As well, we a few years ago we had a social worker now full time, so that's been great. But we needed an office, so we took something away from somebody, so now they have their space back. I spoke earlier about the special education teacher. That's really released some of the stress of our caseloads. The push-in model for special education, really getting those kids face to face with certified teachers I spoke about. And then adding the special education supervisors have released some of the stress from our school psychologists. They're in our building. They're working more with social emotional learning as well. So that's been a nice addition to the budget we've seen over the last couple years. So thank you for that.
So when Steve's mentioning kind of that push-in model, what we're talking about is how do our special education teachers push in their direct instruction into the general education classroom. So they are working side by side with our general education teachers. And what we know is, to the greatest extent possible, we want all of our students being taught the specific skills, whether they be IEP specific or not, in the general education classroom. So that's what he means by vision model.
Yeah, and there are times when we do have to pull some students out, and that works as well, but it's a model. It's a good model. And it adds the collaboration across the building with the amount of time, face-to-face time, and just teachers getting to know kids, learning styles and stuff like that. It's been really good. It's been really nice. You know, and then additional support, some of the structures that we've had in district for a while, the teaching and learning team, refining practices, our social studies talked about that. We do the same. You know, what structures do we need? Can we support? We have our prior to someone becoming a special education student, we have our SIT team, which is a student assistance team, that we come and we talk about kids, like what can we do at that tier 1 level, the tier 2 level, to maybe help that student to make the progress. I meet with our elementary curriculum director, Betsy Gonzalez, often, at least once a month. If not, we're always on the phone back and forth with kids, you know, implementing, you know, who's in STRIP, what are our numbers, how are our kids doing in MIP, which is our math intervention. Katie and I meet, you know, at least once a month about what can she do to help us with special education. Special education is tough. And we want to make sure we are delivering the best services we can for our kids, and how are we tweaking our scheduling. Scheduling is not easy in elementary school. You know, the time, if you look at the minutes in the day, it is packed. It's packed from morning till the afternoon. And when students need services or speech, how can we fit that in? And we have, you know, we're sharing some staff sometimes from different schools. So how can we make that work? So, you know, Steve's not getting pulled out of his math class, but that's the only time our speech is there. How do we work that? So we really rely on their kind of advice, and because they're seeing it in all the buildings too. So it's nice that we can communicate. And then, you know, Title I money, we're a Title I school. That does give us some supports. It's been wonderful over the years. Terriffill has been a Title I school for a long time. We're able to get resources that allow for tutors, instruction. We are able to get resources for actually our students when it comes to technology. All those things are really how we use and capitalize on our Title I money.
Which is a federal grant.
It's a federal
Correct.
grant, yes.
Correct.
I have a
Sure.
question for you. You mentioned that the 4th graders, so last year's 3rd graders, had a rough year last year in 3rd grade. And you put in some supports, and this year they're just excelling. Can you share some of the things that you put in to help that cohort of
Sure.
kids?
So some of the things right away is just slowing down, and that we have an SEL time, a social emotional learning time in the morning, where it's just check-ins and seeing how kids are going. And there's supports that have been pushed in through our school social worker and our school psychologists have been in the classrooms, learning those students, kind of knowing what buttons they're trying to push with us, and we can't push back at certain times because, you know, the kids need it. Maybe they're telling us. And when kids misbehave, they're saying something. You know, I don't think kids are mean-spirited or try to misbehave. They're telling us, so they need something. And we have kind of figured out the needs. And every little kid's different, but we figured out the needs with that cohort. And in turn, they're able to learn now. They're ready to learn. And when you get that, when you get kids that are, you know, attentive, engaged in the lessons, participating in class, that's when kids are going to learn. You know, when they come in with their head spinning, it's tough. It's tough. And sometimes we take those kids, if you're not ready to learn, let's take a break. Let's take a break, and then we try to figure it out.
So Steve, is some of that like more hands-on deck with the school psychologist?
With the school psychologist, yes. We have behavior plans in place for students. You know, our behavior coach is in plan. We have kids, you know, like our behavior coach will go in at 10:10. It's time to take Steve for a walk, get him out, and that's worked. And there's no easy button for that. We've process of, you know, trial and error, we figured it out, and we're at a really good spot, which is great.
Well, I commend you for taking the time,
Yeah.
because I know you guys are so crushed with every minute of the day being necessary for
Yeah.
curriculum or for this special or that. It's hard to take the time to do that, and I really commend you for taking that time, because
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. If you don't take the time up front to get the kids in a position where they can collaborate and be ready to
Yep.
learn,
Yep.
you're wasting your time on the curriculum anyway.
Absolutely. And speaking of with the curriculum, you know, we're starting our new math initiative next year. we're gonna take that with baby steps too. And some of the things we had the other day with our, I think it was elementary principals meeting, kind of how we're gonna kind of roll that out to our students. It's gonna be, this is how you do this is how you do this, and we're not just hammering with like worksheets and problems on the first day. It's gonna be a slow process, and there's, Betsy has put together a whole plan for like, I think it's like 8 days of what, this is what every grade level is gonna do, which is gonna be great, which is really gonna be great,
That's cool.
you know?
And then I have another question. Sorry, I think, Sue, this one's for you. Steve mentioned the, I don't know what you called it, the growth percentile, that statistic. Is that something we do across our elementary schools?
It is. So it's based upon an interesting algorithm. As a matter of fact, we were just discussing with a representative from Renaissance Learning who supports the STAR assessments that we give. We were just talking about the growth percentile. And so basically, when a student, if Neil and I are similarly academic performing, we have a certain percentile that we are, I don't want to say assigned, but a certain percentile that we're trying to reach in order to ensure that our growth continues to go on pace relative to grade level curriculum. So that is something that we look at across schools, across grade levels. So in addition to just how are you performing on certain skills and the percent of students that are meeting expectation, exceeding expectation, or not yet, we are also in addition looking at their growth within those kind of bands.
And is it growth from STAR test year to year, or what is the way you're measuring that?
It's growth from these similar measures in STAR from year to year. And it actually doesn't have to be even yearly. It can be went from one period of time to the next period of time. But it's on a
fall,
specific set
winter,
of skills.
and then spring, we give those check-ins,
I
so.
see, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to echo, I guess, really Jess's first question about, I really like what you said about when kids misbehave, they're telling us something. Boy, I just wish more folks had that mindset because they just see the behavior, right?
Right.
And they don't
Yeah.
take the time or don't acknowledge what's behind it. So I just, hats off.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Could you mentioned the student equity team setup.
Mhm.
Could you just talk about that a little bit more? Because that seems intriguing, like how that works, how people join it, what kind of feedback they give.
Yeah, so it really stemmed from Aaron Naspo, kind of leading our student equity, our equity team, our adult, and we came about, we're planning these bulletin boards, setting them up, and then a kid comes by and says, hey, can I help? And then kind of sparked that, and we started, it's kind of handpicked for this year. We kind of handpicked some students that we thought could use it, could use the equity team, and then it would be useful, resources and really do a good job with it. And so we've kind of evolved it into, it's about 7 or 8 members of kids, and that's kind of how it works. And the kids like it, and they present. They did a little video for the board last year, I
They
think.
did,
There's a couple
they
of
did,
them.
they
Yeah,
set up
yeah.
different activities for
Yeah.
the school to engage in.
Yeah,
And it's, what I love about the students that are selected, certainly it's something to offer around the content, but sometimes just that little boost in leadership to, when we talk about behavior, what are they communicating? Maybe they need a little boost of, hey, I'm gonna be seen in a positive light. So I really commend you with
100%.
how you utilized that
Yeah.
to grow leaders
Yep.
in your building.
How many adults on that team?
we have 7 or 8 on our teacher.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say to echo what you said, just from personal, right, like the teamwork, the culture, the family vibe of this school, right? I had one kid through it, one kid in it, and it's just an amazing place, so a little shameless plug, but love what you're doing here,
Thanks.
love the
It's
setup,
good.
and I think, like I said, that just plays right into it though, just like that kind of kids wanting to be a part of it, does feel very,
Yeah.
like you got something good going.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks, Steve.
you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Good. Now we're on to the second reading of the policy section.
Oh, yes, I can be very efficient. So, as board members know, the gestation period for policy passage is a long one, starting from our committee level to bringing it forward for recommendation to the full committee, so I presented at our last meeting 2 weeks ago in the first reading of the policies what sort of all of the changes we are proposing for this year were about, ranging from some minor bylaw revisions to our typical set of revisions that need to happen due to legislative changes from the year before, highlighted this year by a couple, the kindergarten age changes, some changes to attendance policies, and some credit changes would be some of the highlights there. We reviewed those, and then this year we tackled the 2000 series, which is about mostly the roles and responsibilities of the superintendent. So we did that series in full. So I offered 2 weeks ago that if anybody had any feedback on any of those, they should contact me. I did not receive any correspondence from anybody, so at this point, I think we're ready to deliver 2 weeks from now. And these would be voted on at your June 14th meeting, and then Katie, did I get that right? June 11th meeting, and then Katie will make the changes official on our website and everywhere else, so.
Thank you.
It's like church. This is the second reading, and we'll get the gospel next time.
Scaring me.
We are now into public audience. No? Okay. At this time, we are going to recess into executive session to discuss the evaluation of the superintendent. I do want folks to understand, obviously, we're a little short-staffed on the team tonight. I did reach out to the three folks who are not here, so I will incorporate their comments in our executive session. So with that,
Make a motion, we will go into executive session?
Second.